A devastating betrayal shattered Taylor's excitement about moving into her dream apartment. Her parents had secretly taken out a loan in her name, leaving her in overwhelming debt. When she discovered where the money had gone, she felt compelled to make a difficult decision. My name is Taylor, and I want to share a story that turned my life upside down. I never thought I'd experience such betrayal, let alone talk about it. But here I am. I recently finished my 3rd year of university and stumbled upon the cutest little apartment near campus. It had everything I ever wanted. Huge windows, a cozy reading nook, and a charm that felt like home. I was over the moon and couldn't wait to tell my parents. One sunny afternoon, I sat down with them in our living room, unable to contain my excitement. Mom, Dad, guess what? They looked up from their newspapers, giving me a curious glance. I found the perfect apartment. It's close to campus and absolutely perfect. I can finally have my own space. Dad folded his newspaper and placed it on the table. Taylor, we need to talk about this, he started, a serious tone taking over his voice. Mom nodded, her face tight with concern. We don't think it's a good idea for you to move out right now. It's a waste of money. You should stay home and save. I stared at them, my excitement deflating like a punctured balloon. What? Why? This is something I've wanted for so long. So what's the matter? Dad sighed deeply. It's just not the right time. Taylor, trust us on this. Feeling frustrated and confused, I turned to Jake, my boyfriend, who had been a rock for me throughout this whole apartment hunt. He stood by the door, watching the scene unfold. Jake, back me up here, I pleaded. Jake stepped forward, his calm demeanor reassuring. Mr. and Mrs. Davis, with all due respect, I think Taylor deserves to have her own space. But my parents were unmoved. Jake, it's not that simple, Mom said, a strange look crossing her face. There are things you don't understand. Like what? I demanded. What aren't you telling me? They exchanged glances, and I could sense their hesitation. Finally, Dad spoke. We've loaned money from the bank in your name. I blinked, trying to process his words. What do you mean, Dad? How could you do that? Mom's eyes filled with tears. We needed the money for TALIA'S wedding. It was so important to her. My jaw dropped. You took the money to fund TALIA'S wedding? The one to Carter, my ex-boyfriend who cheated on me with her? You've got to be kidding me. They nodded, guilt etched on their faces. We didn't want to burden you with this, Dad said softly, but we had no other choice. I felt like the ground was shifting beneath me. Do you realize you used the money to pay for the wedding of the man who betrayed me and the sister who broke my heart? Mom reached out to touch my arm, but I pulled away. Taylor, we're sorry. We never wanted you to find out this way. How much? I asked, my voice barely a whisper. How much did you take? About $40,000, Dad admitted, looking away. I gasped. $40,000? Are you insane? How could you do this to me? Jake stepped closer, placing a comforting hand on my shoulder. Taylor, let's talk about this calmly. Calmly? I snapped. I'm freaking out here. Jake, forgive me, but I can't help it. They've ruined everything. Dad stood up, trying to approach me. We did it out of love for your sister. We thought it was the right thing to do. You call this love? I spat. Leaving your daughter in debt? Going behind her back? This is pure selfishness. Dad, please spare me. Mom's tears flowed freely now. Please. Taylor, try to understand our point of view. We're still your parents. We never meant to hurt you. But you did. I whispered, feeling the weight of their betrayal settle over me. Jake pulled me into a hug, his arms the only thing keeping me from collapsing. But as I looked over his shoulder at my parents, I realized that nothing would ever be the same again. The people I trusted most had deceived me in the worst way possible, and I had no idea how to move forward from here. Knowing further arguments would be pointless. I went to my room after Jake left, my mind racing with 1,000 thoughts. As soon as I closed the door, I called Aunt Freya. She was my mom's younger sister, always the voice of reason in our chaotic family. "Taylor. Sweetheart. What's wrong?" Aunt Freya asked, her voice filled with concern. "Aunt Freya, can I please come stay with you for a bit? I need to get out of here," I said, trying to keep my voice steady. "Of course. You can come. What happened, dear?" I packed my essentials in a small suitcase, my hands shaking. "It's a long story. I'll explain everything when I get there." When I arrived at Aunt Freya's, she welcomed me with a warm hug. Her cozy house, filled with the scent of freshly baked cookies, felt like a safe haven. We sat down in her living room, and she listened intently as I poured out my heart. "I can't believe they did that to you," she said, shaking her head. "Your parents have really crossed the line this time. I don't know what to do. Aunt Freya, I feel so lost." Aunt Freya showed me a dozen posts online about parents ruining their kids' futures. "You're not alone in this, Taylor. Many people have faced similar situations, and they found ways to stand up for themselves. But what can I do? They've left me with this massive debt." "Well, you could contact the police," she suggested cautiously. I looked at her, stunned. "The police? Really?" "Yes, Taylor. What they did is illegal. They committed fraud. You have every right to report them." The next morning, I went to the police station with Aunt Freya by my side. I felt a wave of fear and determination as I recounted everything my parents had done. The officer listened carefully, taking notes. "This is a serious matter, Miss Davis. We'll need to investigate further. But it sounds like you have a strong case." A few days later, my parents were arrested and charged with fraud. They were furious with me, and their anger was palpable during the brief phone call I had with them. "How could you do this to us, Taylor?" my mom screamed. "We're your parents. We did it for the family." "For the family?" I shot back. "You ruined my future for Talia and Carter's wedding. How is that for the family?" Talia and Carter were also making a big scene out of this. They showed up at Aunt Freya's house, demanding to talk. "Taylor, this is ridiculous," Talia shouted. "You're tearing the family apart. You did that when you decided to marry Carter." I shot back. "You both knew what you were doing." Carter sneered. "You're overreacting, Taylor. It's just money." "Just money?" I repeated, incredulous. "Don't test my patience." Aunt Freya stepped in, her eyes blazing. "That's enough. Both of you. Get out. Taylor doesn't need this stress right now." They left, grumbling. But the damage was done. My parents, Talia, and Carter, none of them had my best interests at heart. The only people truly supporting me were Aunt Freya and Jake. Jake was my rock through everything. He came over every day, offering comfort with his loving presence. "We'll get through this, Taylor," he assured me repeatedly. "I promise." One evening, as we sat on Aunt Freya's porch, Jake took my hand. "You did the right thing. You know, standing up for yourself." I looked at him, tears filling my eyes. "I hope so. It just feels like everything is falling apart." "Maybe," he said softly. "But sometimes things need to fall apart to fall back into place. This is a lot to handle. But you have me and Aunt Freya supporting you every step of the way." Aunt Freya nodded. "Jake is right. We're here for you, Taylor. And you're stronger than you think. Never forget that." The legal process was long and stressful. But eventually, justice was served. My parents were held accountable for their actions, with the bank seizing their assets, most of which I never knew about. Do I feel bad for them? Sometimes. They were my parents, after all. But I couldn't overlook what they had done. I had to take a stand, even if it meant breaking the family apart. Meanwhile, I slowly started to rebuild my life. I found a new job and eventually moved into a nice apartment. Thanks to Aunt Freya. I was even able to save up and repay her in easy installments. Looking back, I often wonder, did I do the right thing? Was I too harsh on my parents? But then I remember the betrayal, the lies, and the hurt they caused. What would you have done differently? Sometimes, you have to stand up for yourself, even if it means standing alone.